All right. Welcome to Sisters Standing on Law. This is your host, Anita Ill, along with my co-host, Mariah Beck.
Islam, peace and love to all.
Islam.
All right.
All right. I want to jump right into today's subject of Sisters Standing on Law. It is geared towards the sisters because this is about choices that you're going to be making, but it doesn't leave out the son because you always need a good, strong soldier on standby when mother is bringing in new energy. So this is for everyone, but especially mothers. As the grand architect, mother, building in the dark with no tools, no hands, where will you bring forth your egg? Have you thought about this? Have you planned? Is it a safe place with good vibrations? Is it in harmony with our custom and culture as Moor? Join us tonight as we discuss this and other issues with our guests regarding options for mothers to bring in the energy and lay down the law, blend and go with. And I just want to pinpoint one specific area. Is it a safe place? Many of us, myself included, we have been mentally conditioned to believe that when you bring forth your baby, that life, in these institutions that they call hospitals, it's a safe place. That is not a safe place. The really and truly, there's so many things that go on in that institution. Much of it is about death. And you're bringing in life in that place. Now, I'm not saying that you don't have options. I'm just saying consider what you're doing and where you're doing it. Because if you have to bring in there, then you have to plan for that as well. Everything is about planning. Nothing is ever about flying by the seat of your pants. Some things you can probably get away with, but this is not one of those things, or it ought not to be one of those things. And I know even when I had my children, I don't think, I'm not sure I have to really sit down and think about it, but a lot of times when women get pregnant, they say things like, oh, it was an accident. It could never have been an accident. Accidents do not happen in nature. 1 and 1 is going to equal 2. Or 1 and 1, in this case, is going to equal 3. So,
go ahead. No, I that's just interesting because, it's true. People say, I'm pregnant, but it was an accident. I'm like, no. Not only what you're saying is, there are no accidents in the universe, number one. And number two, if you, do that, that's what happens. That's why they have all these things like birth controls and stuff. But I just wanted to just say, as you do this, to tell them what exactly that institution is and who established it. As far as all hospitals, many people may not know that. The jurisdiction that they are under and who established it and what the institution actually is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
You have to do the research. Look, you can't. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. And a lot of times when we hear that, we think in terms of the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. But the law of nature, ignorance of the law of nature is no excuse. Ignorance of the law of biology, true biology, is no excuse. Ignorance of the law all around is no excuse, because before you do anything, you are supposed to first gain information so that you can plan accordingly. So when people say, oh, it was accident, no, what you just told me is ignorance of the law is no excuse. There's a law at work here. It's going to work whether you acknowledge it or not. If a woman has decided that she's going to get pregnant, she's going to bring forth life, whether she is consciously aware of it or not, it's going to happen. That's the law. That's all there is. There's nothing else. So we have to be able to plan for these things instead of doing things half-hearted. So we have the nationwide. Oh, that's the wrong thing. Let's see, Shantae. We have, I think this is Shantae Hill. Yes, this is Shantae Hill on the line. Peace, sister. Are you there?
Hello? Yes, can you hear me?
Hey. Yes, I can hear you. Islam. Now,
Islam.
I just want to make sure. This is Asim's daughter-in-law, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
All right. And she down the law and brought in a healthy son. And she did it. She went through the hospital, and I'm hoping that we have your sister Christine, I think Christine Bay, who also brought forth a new life, laid down the law, only she did her homework. So what I was hoping that we would be able to do is have both of you talk about your experience. Did you plan for this? After going through this, what kind of things do you feel mothers need to be aware of, and plan for when they're taking this step? And anything else that you think a mother needs to be aware of, just to share what your experience was, because I'm sure there's got to be 1,001 things running through the brain once you find out you're pregnant. And I remember when I got pregnant, it's really 10 months, but they tell you 9. And it feels like such a long time. But then the time is gone, and, the baby is on the way, like literally you have not done or have not put in place. So, if you can share your experience, just share your thoughts. And because I'm sure there's got to be mothers out there who want to know, and need to know. So unless Roz has something else he wants to add, I'm going to yield the floor to you.
So my journey went by
I'm
really
sorry.
quickly.
I apologize. Can you hear me right now? I apologize. Can
Yes,
you hear
I
me
can
now?
hear you.
All right, I
Yes.
was on mute. I just wanted to say peace to the sister and to the family and to the new a member of the family. And I think you said that that she's going to also express that she had the child at the hospital and walked out without having the birth certificate and had to deal with that.
Correct.
All right,
Yes.
sis. All right, peace and love. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
All right. So,
yes.
My journey went by really quickly. The 9 months flew by. I had a plan. I did originally want to give birth in the home, but it didn't pan out that way. Originally, I was on watch for gestational diabetes. So from the beginning, the doctors were pushing for me to be on medication and to give birth in a hospital. The doctor that I chose, my OB, I expressed to her early on that I wanted to deliver at home, and she let me know right from the door that she could not be there and that with my condition she didn't recommend it. But I wanted to give birth at home. The reason why I chose not to give birth at home was because I did my research in terms of if I were to have an accidental leak from my birthing pool, and my particular renter's insurance wouldn't cover it. So I opted to not do it in the home just because I couldn't afford if there was a leak. So I looked into the second best option for me, which would have been a birthing center. As I was going along, when I went for my first checkup, they tested my blood pressure was high, slightly high, not extremely high. And because of that, my mother is diabetic, and according to them, I am overweight. So because of that, they tested me early. They checked my blood sugar levels, and according to them, there's a range. It shouldn't be higher than 120 after eating, and it was like 122 or something or of that nature. And then my A1C level was, I think their normal is 5.6, and mine was like 5.8 or 5.9. So because of that, she recommended that I come back in 2 weeks and do the actual glucose test. The 1 hour test that I took was high, and then I came back a week later and did the 3 hour test. And in order for them to diagnose you gestational, you have to have 2 of the 3 hours be high. In my case, 1 of the 3 hours were high. So she couldn't put me on medication right away, so she recommended that I go to a dietitian and be put on a diet that would manage my blood sugar levels and hopefully prevent me from becoming gestational. So I went to see a specialist, and this particular specialist, she was a dietitian, and she put me on I was eating 6 times a day. I couldn't have more than 30 carbs in each portion. So I did that. In addition to that, I was checking my blood sugar levels 4 times a day. So once at fasting and then 1 hour after eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I had to send her the logs every week, and then every 4 weeks I would go see her. My tests after eating were normal according to them, and then it was my fasting one that was high when I woke up in the morning. And I tried everything to get it down. In the beginning, I couldn't get it down. I think what led to it was I was working a schedule of 7 to 3:30, and I was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, so I was going to sleep maybe around 5 or 6. So I was sleeping from like 12 hours with no activity and no food and no drink. So I think that's what was causing my levels to be so high. But at any rate, I was continuing to see the specialist, and they kept pushing the medication to get my fasting level down. They had 3 options. One was metformin. I forget the name of the other one. And then the third one was an insulin shot. I refused the insulin shot right away because I couldn't give myself that needle. And then the other 2 options, I did my research. My mom is actually diabetic, and she actually takes metformin. So I talked to my mom about it, and I was starting, as I got closer to my due date, I started to get scared that something was going to happen to my son. So when they were talking to me, I was always refusing the medication because I knew early on that I didn't want to give my baby anything that wasn't natural or from my body. So I stuck to my guns in the beginning, and I refused it. And then, I don't know, maybe around 25 weeks, they sent me to a diabetic doctor to speak with him. And he was so, I don't know, he was cold. He would give me the facts straightforward, and he was speaking about stillbirth and birth defects and my baby being super large, and just he scared me, like, and I have to be completely honest, I was completely scared. I cried at that appointment because I was so shooken up for the things that he said to me. And it was on that day that...
And that's exactly why they do that. Because
right.
one of the things that they know about us, and I'm not just saying that it's specific to you, but one of the things they know about us, our species, is that we know nothing about diet. We don't. Mm-hmm. We don't have any dietitians to talk to us about our body and our natural diet. So they count on us not having that information. So when they start saying things, I worked in the hospital for 5 years. The hospital, and that was back in the early 80s. The hospitals at that time were moving into just the money-making business. They were moving into that. They are there now. This is all about a business. It has nothing to do with patient care. It has nothing to do with really informing people based on their species, because, and I say species and people are probably like, what is she talking about? Species. Well, we are a human species, but there's two human species. You have the Asiatic species of human, you have modern European species of human, just like there are several species of dogs and several species of cats and several species of birds. Well, we got two species of humans, and so when they talk in terms of norms and people, we have to be aware of this, just especially. They're only talking in terms of norms based on the modern European species. I can tell you this because I used to have to monitor the results that were coming back and bring it to the nurse's attention immediately if it was outside of their parameters. When we as a people, they're pushing this whole diabetes. They're pushing it heavily on the Asiatic, not because people truly have diabetes, but because it's a big moneymaker. It's a huge moneymaker because we don't know about diet, and we think that when they tell us that illnesses are hereditary, we believe them because we don't have enough information. Diabetes is not hereditary. High blood pressure is not hereditary. None of these things. Asthma is not hereditary. These things happen because we follow pretty much the diet of our mother or our grandmother or our great-grandmother. And that's why things happen to the same, people in the next generation, because we're following the same pattern. That in mind. And when your mother is diabetic, what that means is that your body is more sensitive to certain foods. And so the chances of your liver not being able to use the insulin that your body is putting out is higher than somebody who's not super sensitive. So that's all that's saying. And it's nothing to be afraid of. We just need the information so we can make better decisions. And unfortunately, and I'm going to say this and then we know the floor. Unfortunately, we have no more, none, doing what you could call normal tests for the Asiatic species. There's nobody. There's nothing for us. Now, I can tell you, a lot of times when you talk about norms, nothing is ever normal. Because if you get, what they normally do is they get 6 people and they'll take for example, using temperature. They'll get 6 Asiatic people. They'll take the temperature of the 6 Asiatic people at 3 different times. Then they'll add them all together and divide them by 6. And that's what they will call the norm for the Asiatic species. But your number will be It's not what my number will be. It's not what Shantae's number will be. It's not what Ron's number will be. It's just a good base to look at if things get high or too low. Because when your temperature gets too high, it means something. When it gets too low, it means something. So you got to take these things into consideration. But the main thing we need as a people is information. And we can start gathering this information and creating charts for ourselves right now. So consider this, especially mothers, consider this right now while you're not pregnant, so you'll be prepared, because these doctors, these dietitians, these institutions that call hospitals, these insurance companies, they need these municipal corporations, they need you to come in there, because if you don't, then they're not going to get any federal dollars. It's just that simple. And they do whatever they need to steer you to get in there to get those dollars.
Well, can I interject? This would be a great point when you said they need these dollars, these municipal corporations, and it's a great point to interject that all hospitals are established by municipalities. They're under the municipal jurisdiction. They all establish them. Mm-hmm.
Yes,
that's
correct. So, sister, continue, please. Please continue. This is great.
That actually was my number one takeaway. If I could do it again, I would not allow myself to be shaken by them, because I can see how from the very beginning they push you into a hospital. If you come in with a natural plan, they're going to push you. Unless you can find a doctor who is on board with natural birth, they're going to push you into a hospital any way that they can. So that was actually if I could do it again, I definitely wouldn't allow myself to be scared. But I did. Yeah. And I accepted. They put me, I think I was about 25 or 26, somewhere along that line, right before the third trimester. They put me on the lowest dosage of metformin. I was taking it at night before dinner, just to see if my fasting number would go down. And it did. And I took it for about 2 to 3 weeks. I stopped taking it at one point just because it wasn't. My fasting numbers went down, and once they went down, I stopped taking it just to see if it was a hormonal thing, because that's what I thought it was all along. Once I stopped taking it, my fasting number went down on its own as well. So at any rate, I wanted to find a birthing center that I could go to, and that was a journey within itself. It was really, really hard to find birthing centers with people that looked like me, and in the journey to find a doula and a midwife, I had only found one midwife in this area. I don't know about other areas, but in this area there was only one midwife that looked like me. So that was another thing. There's just really not a lot of places for us to give birth. At any rate, I found one that I was comfortable with, that I really liked, and we did a tour, and it was a nice place. And I started telling the midwife about my situation, and she stopped me and she said, you're on the medication, you can't give birth here. So at that point, I didn't really have a choice. It was either do it at home or do it in a hospital, because they wouldn't accept me at the birthing center. And because of all the things that they were telling me in terms of my son's weight and stillbirth, and previously I lost a child earlier when I was younger, so I was really scared about a miscarriage, and I just didn't want to take the chance. So I made the decision to deliver my son in the hospital. And it was hard for me, but I had to do what I had to do to make sure that he got here safely. So now my next step was to make sure that he was, born, and I didn't have the Social Security number and the birth certificate attached to him. So I chose to have the baby in the hospital. And the next thing was they were sending me for these tests to check his heart rate, and I had to go twice a week, which was at the hospital that I would deliver at. That sort of got me comfortable with having to be there because I got to meet the nurses and the staff that was on duty at that labor and delivery unit. So I kind of adjusted and I just accepted that I would just be there, and it is what it is. My doctor was pushing to have me induced because of the gestational diabetes, or the potential of having gestational diabetes. And at first I was really against it. I didn't want to be induced. Every time she would suggest it, I said, no, we're not doing that. I want him to come on his own timing. But then again, it was like I was kind of scared because she would give me all these possibilities of what could happen if I went past 40 weeks, or if it was the longer I waited, the bigger he would get, the harder it would be for me to deliver him, or the higher the risk would be that once he was born, he couldn't adapt on his own. So she wanted to induce exactly at 39 weeks, and we went back and forth, and she said, well, the longest I'm willing to wait I ended up giving birth at 39 weeks and 5 days. So that was another thing for me. It was almost like,
but let me just ask you this: are you telling me that were they trying to induce your labor?
Yeah.
Early?
She didn't want me to go. She didn't want me to go past the 40 weeks because she didn't want my son to be large and it would be hard for me to deliver, or he would have trouble adapting once he was here.
Okay. What did she mean by adapting?
Say that again.
What did she mean by adapting?
Meaning either he could be born and not breathe when he's born, or be born with either a low blood sugar or a high blood sugar. And so she was concerned about that, because with my blood sugars being high during pregnancy, he would have issues when he was born. Well, that was her thought, the potential of him having issues when he was born. So she wanted to prevent
and did that.
So
happen?
that was no. He was fine. He was absolutely fine. Which
so
is
all
another.
Of that was
Mhm.
All of that
was another
scare you to comply.
Right. That was another lesson for me, because I should have stuck with my gut, because he was fine. I was going for the test. His heart rate was fine. I was seeing a specialist, so I would go for every 4 weeks. He would have a growth scan, and he was fine. Towards the end, he did get big, but up all the way
they
up
always
to it.
Do. They always do.
Yeah. Going up to it, he was, right on chart, and I don't know. I got scared. I didn't want anything to happen to my son. So we ended up inducing my labor. I went in on May 29th, and I was told that I was going to have one procedure by the doctor and the nurse, and I ended up having a completely different procedure. I was under the impression that I was going to go in and have take a pill to prep my cervix, and then my water would be broken and I would start labor, but it would be a 12-hour process. The drug I was given started my labor immediately that night. I was in labor for about, I think, 11 or 12 hours, and I pushed for about an hour and some change, and he was born, and he was healthy, and he was fine. And my whole takeaway from it, if I had to do it again, is just don't let them scare you or pressure you into doing anything that you don't feel right in your heart, because you know your body and you know your baby more than anybody, any specialist, any doctor, anybody else. So I wouldn't allow myself to be scared. But I'm grateful that he's here. Right away, we told the nurses and the doctors that we didn't want to do a birth certificate, or that we didn't want to do any immunizations or anything like that. And you could tell right away that they were taken aback that somebody was saying no, because they would, are you sure, was the response, or are you, nobody has ever done that before. But I told them right away that we weren't doing immunization, we weren't going to do a birth certificate, and that I wanted someone to be present with the baby at all times. And you could see on their faces that they just weren't used to anybody saying no to them. So once we were in our recovery room, or the room that we stayed in until the end of our stay, a nurse came in and she gave paperwork, and it was something about a birth certificate and something about paternity. And we said, well, we're not going to sign that. We're not going to do that. She goes, well, why? And I said to her, we're choosing not to. And I let her know that it was because of our religious right. And this particular nurse, she just kind of let it go. She said, okay, well, I've never seen anybody do that, but congratulations. And she let it go. But it just was different people coming in at different points, pushing this birth certificate. The next nurse was like the pediatric nurse or something or another, and she said, well, I heard that you're not doing a birth certificate. Can I ask why? And I said the same thing. And she goes, well, he wouldn't be able to get a driver's license. You wouldn't be able to get WIC or any state services. And
wow,
for me, yeah. For me, I was a little offended, because I was like, well, do you say that to everybody? Or I was a little offended, but I just was like, we're aware and we're not interested. So that was her. And then it was another nurse, I think it was like the lactation nurse or someone else, that came in, and she asked again, but she wanted to know what religion it was. And I said, well, we're Moorish American. And she goes,
violation. There it is, right there. It's not your business what the religion is. I had to say, don't they do that? They'll say, and then I want to hear what you told them. But if you tell them too much, they'll start using whatever the one sister shared with them on the next sister. They'll say, oh, well, we have someone with that same religion. Yeah.
It becomes a religious pet. It becomes a religious pet. And that's unconstitutional.
That's right.
That's what it felt like. It was, each person was asking more and more. But this particular one, she asked, and I said, well, we're Moorish American. She goes, well, I never heard of that before. And I said, okay, and I left it at that. That was that. So my son he wouldn't pee. In the first 24 hours, he hadn't wet a diaper. So the first day, I gave birth on the 30th. As of the 1st, I was clear to go home. Well, as of the 31st, I was clear to go home, but my son couldn't go home because he hadn't wet a diaper. So on the morning of the 1st, before that, the evening of the 31st, sort of maybe about 1 o'clock in the morning, a different pediatric nurse came in, and she said, I hadn't chosen a pediatrician at that point, so the on-call pediatrician said, well, if he doesn't wet a diaper by 3 a.m. that day, we should supplement. I'm breastfeeding, so he said, well, we should supplement. We should give him formula to see that his systems are working. Let him wet a diaper, and you go back to breastfeeding. And I was completely against it. I didn't want formula, and I didn't want the nipple, the bottle nipple. So I said to the lady, I said, well, I would prefer to keep breastfeeding him, and, we'll just make it happen. And she said to me, she kept fighting. She said, well, these are not my instructions. These are the doctor's instructions. And I said to her, I understand, but I do not want to give him formula. And she said to me, oh, it's late. Are you tired? Maybe you need to take a nap. Because you need to do what's best for the baby. And I said to her, I understand that you're concerned. I understand it's your job, but I am choosing not to give my son formula, and that's the end of it. So that was that situation. The next day, in the morning, he wet his diaper and he was clear to go home. And that's another thing that I take away from the experience. By this point, I had learned that they're going to force you to do whatever it is that they say that is best for the baby. So at that point, I was just tired of people telling me what to do with my child. It just came to a point where I put my foot down and I was just like, enough is enough. He's here, he's healthy, so that's it, you know. So the next day he wet his diaper and the pediatric nurse came in and she released him, but I still wasn't released. They held up my discharge papers for as long as they could, I guess. So we signed his discharge papers, and as I was doing that, the nurse was saying again, you know, without the birth certificate, he wouldn't be able to get a license, or you wouldn't be able to get any state benefits or any of that stuff. But we got through that. We signed that information to release the baby. The discharge nurse came around, and she checked me to make sure that, you know, I had stitches, to make sure everything was healing and that everything was fine. This was at maybe 10 o'clock in the morning. And she goes, okay, well, I'm going to go get your paperwork together, and I'll be back for you to sign it so that you can go home. I don't think I left the hospital that day until maybe 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. At first it was they were getting the paperwork together. Then at one point they said that the head staffer or the manager, I'm not sure what they call her, wanted to speak with me. Then at another point they said that they wanted to get the registrar, that person on the phone, because they weren't in the hospital, to speak with me. It just was one excuse after another where they were holding up us leaving this hospital. The head lady did come in and talk to us. At that point, my son's dad and Asim were there, and we told her the same thing that we kept telling the other nurses. And Asim spoke with her, and he said, well, we have our own birth record, and he showed her a copy of like a mock-up certificate that he had with the flag and all of that on it. And the lady goes, oh, that's cute. Like, she brushed it off as if it was not even, you know, something real. And then she says to me, well, you know, I understand, but I don't think that you can, she goes, I think that you have to do the birth certificate or something, or I don't remember her verbiage exactly, but she goes, I think you have, the synopsis of it was that you have to do it and you can't just leave here. So she goes, well, we're going to get someone on the phone to make sure that this is okay before we let you go. And that went on for hours. Then that lady asked me the normal exit questions that they have, you know, was your stay good? Did you enjoy your service? But then the person who was actually supposed to, I guess, do that exit survey came in, and she asked the same questions. She said the same thing, you know, we're checking to make sure that this is okay. I never spoke. Oh, yeah, I did speak with the registrar. It was towards the end. But before we left, someone from billing called, and she goes, well, this is your estimation of your services. And she asked if I could pay it in full or if I could pay a portion of it. So they got that out the way in terms of getting their money. And then finally the lady from I think she was at like the main hospital, called and said, well, you know, it's the law. You have to do some type of birth record. And she said that we'll put on record that you gave birth, but with no name, because at that point I wasn't telling the baby's name. And she goes, it won't have a name on it, but we do have to send something to the state letting them know that a child was born. So that was that. I never signed anything. Finally, they came in with the paperwork and for me to be released. It was maybe about 4 or 5 hours after the baby wet the diaper and I was ready to go home. Right before we left, a member of their chapel, I guess she was maybe a priest or I'm not sure, a woman came in and she goes, well, I just wanted to speak with you and wanted to wish you the best, and she was walking into the room. There was like a curtain, so she couldn't see Asim standing on the other side. But when she walked into the room, she did see him, and it was like she stopped dead in her tracks. She wouldn't come near me. She wouldn't come near the baby. And she just said, I wanted to wish you the best. And then
she saw cars and backed up.
But she stopped dead in her tracks.
Right, she saw the soldier. That's right. There it is. She saw the car. That's right. Thought she was on your own.
Yeah, she that lady left. The lady from billing finally came upstairs and she took the payment, and they came in with the paperwork and we signed. We were able to leave, and they wheeled us out. But it was so long. I kept saying, I'm ready to go. I kept, what is the hold up? And they would have excuse after excuse after excuse until finally they, I guess, got clearance that it was okay for us to leave without, signing that birth certificate. But we, that was basically it. They, at one point, I'm not sure at what point it happened. His dad was with him at that point, but they did do the footprints on a certificate, but it was left blank, and we were given that information. But that was pretty much it, and we were able to leave with the baby safe without having signed that paperwork.
Well, I got a question, Annie. Why would they? Now, I've heard this is a few years ago, where they mailed all that stuff to them anyway. Because now, my question, Annie, if a mother touches herself and saying, "Listen, no, it's against my religion." Really, you just say it's against my religion, and any other, they really are not supposed to ask you what the religion is. They're not supposed to ask you anything about it or anything like that. As you said, Annie, that would be a religious test and like that. But why would they then create that bond anyway with no name on it? What benefit? We know that they use these bonds, and they have nothing to do with the natural flesh and blood birth of a being. But why would they do it, and they get finance from it, but why would they do it and it's blank? Because this is proving that all they're doing is making this, yeah.
The reason they're doing it.
Let me just say this before you say, they do it anyway, and then they have gotten us to agree with it out of our lack of knowledge. So now, why are they doing it even if you're not agreeing? They're still making it. All right.
Because they're still trusting that, because she said some things here. She said, one, driver's license, and she said state benefits. So she just, it wasn't, that was, I would have been offended at that. Because what she made an assumption is that because you're Asiatic and you were born on this land, this North American soil, you're going to need state services called social services. And she knows that most of our people, they want a driving instrument. So she threw the two things on the table that could change people's minds. If not now, later. Because see, a lot of our people, they come in there, they're on some kind of so-called state assistance, but really it's not state assistance, really. Let's be clear. The state is only administering benefits, finance, money, whatever you want to call it, that's already allocated simply because you breathe. They are just an administrator. They have no benefits to give. They don't have a product or a service. Remember, the state is not supposed to be a corporation, A state is a state is a group of people. So a state, by definition, doesn't have anything to give. But people get caught up. So what she's saying is you're not going to be able to get benefit. You're not going to be able to get your medical bill paid. because this is what she's saying without saying it. You're not going to be able to get food stamps. You're not going to be able to get money to pay your rent. This is what she's saying without saying it. Most and these people don't know the biggest welfare recipients are corporations, then modern Europeans.
But I think what you said is that the state doesn't really give that anyway. Those are from just, right, it's because of the Aboriginal Indigenous people, period, but they make you, and this is a perfect example, they start it right at the birth, though. They make you turn yourself into something else. Yeah.
Now, one of the things that I said was, you know, in the introduction or in our syllabus is your plan, have you planned for safety? Because I'm going to tell you, I didn't go through what you went through, but invariably, when you're dealing in these institutions, there's not one time that they're not going to scare you because they need for you to comply. Because your compliance, it is an appearance of agreement, and they need for it to be an appearance of agreement, like you chose to do this when in actuality you were threatened. You were threatened. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and at that point, it also, as you said, it makes it as if you agreed, so they're getting you to comply with that, as if you, even though it's deceit, because it ain't really about it's not really about the birth of a flesh and blood being for you, for the mother, for the family, for the natural people. But at that point, they can also say that you agreed with their fraud.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. All right.
But I remember when I was I didn't feel, when I had my first child, let me say this. I've never felt safe going into those institutions. Never. And I didn't know as much as I know now. Let me think. I'm trying to think. Was I working in the institution when I had my first child? No. But after working at these institutions they call hospitals, I can tell you, I used to tell people, look, if you want to die, do not go to the hospital. Don't go there, because what they're going to do is they all do this, especially now. They do a financial research on you, and if you have any assets, they will keep you alive long enough to exhaust all your assets. Then they will pull the plug, and then they'll pass it to their next family member, who's going to, give you the birth certificate. The death certificate. Because I only just found out when my father's wife passed, you cannot bury anyone unless you have a death certificate from a municipal corporation. That's crazy.
Right. But
no
that's
funeral
also
home will take you. They won't even come and pick up the body unless they have the death certificate. So
or they send the preacher over, or they send the preacher over who works with them, and they have to come first, and then they'll come and move the body once that preacher from whatever church or institution you're with, because they are already connected to make sure that they authenticate that at that moment. Yes. Mm-hmm.
They are all connected. They don't
But
do
you know
nothing.
what? Those preachers, when they do that, they come out of their normal so-called clergy and everything is about God and Jesus and saving and all that. They actually come out of their normal clergy and go into what is called secular clergy, which means business. So they allow them to have no taxes paid because they're performing this portion for them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. sister, you know what? Don't beat yourself up over some of the things that took place because it was a lesson. And it sounds like you learned the lesson.
She did good. She did very well. I just wanted to tell you that, sister.
Good.
Yes, and you have expressed it very well, done very well in expressing your position and your experience. So you did well. But the good thing is that I have to ask, were you able to see just how, like most people would cave in, get the birth certificate, go through all that because they have this, lack of knowledge or fear or faith in this or whatever like that, but it's really lack of knowledge. But you actually went through it. Could you really see how they were really pressing that and pressing that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. From the very beginning, just even before I was in the hospital, from the very beginning, from the first appointment that I had with the doctor, all the way up until I can see how women are pushed into having their babies in hospitals and signing that birth certificate because they are relentless. They are not going to give up. So you just have to really stick to your guns and say no. And that's it, no. So,
and I just want to reiterate, I just want to point out here strongly now, and because I'm not taking nothing away from the sons and Brother Assem and your mate, man, I know you guys were standing up there like strong soldiers like you are, but let me ask you this, Chen, regarding the baby was directed at you. Am I correct?
Directly to my son's dad made the payment, the payment to the hospital, and it was from his card, and they gave me a copy of his receipt. He had to sign it, but they gave the paperwork to me. All of the questions go directly to me.
And this is what I try to tell people, sisters got to get it clear. It's all well and good for you to have a strong son standing there, but you got to be strong yourself. You got to put your foot down, and above all things, you must be a united front. You must be let the sister do what she got to do. And son, y'all stand there like the soldiers you are because they not going to talk to you. They will. Mm-hmm. If you talk too much, they will out of the hospital. So be the soldier and let her do what she's got to do. But she got to be prepared because they already know that's her egg. She's the only one that can speak on it. And that's why everything is directed at her. Because whatever she says about that baby, that's what's going to happen.
Yes.
Because it's all about finances with these people.
That is so true. I've had someone who had that experience, and they were saying that, they were, whatever the father was saying or the son was saying, all well and good, but they just ignored them. And like you said, they'll throw them out of the hospital because in the end and in the beginning and especially in the end, whatever she says, that's why they try to work on her. And it's really unjust in that, some women may go through a very tiring delivery, and they know that she's weak. They know that she's concerned about her child. They know that she's concerned about herself. They know that her mind might be somewhere else. And that's when that united front of having him there, just as she just expressed it, that was her experience and Sim's experience and everyone's, the whole family's experience that is being shared with the family today, is that when the nurse was marching in there, or whoever that other person was, to be the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth person, to try to press up on her to make her agree with that birth certificate bond, which is human trafficking, that they're doing and getting you to appear to have agreed, right? But when they were walking in, they didn't see him in the corner. But as soon as they see the state spirit, they stopped dead in their tracks. They were getting ready to work on her. Because in the end, it is her decision. And he is the strength. That's why he's the enforcer. But she lays down this. Sister, you just laid down the law by having the child. That is truly laying down the law, coming forth in the flesh. and then he is the enforcer. So, period. That y'all just experienced that because when she saw him, they stopped. They was getting try to work on you and work on your vulnerabilities of just having a child, etc. And that's what they do to all the sisters. So, as you said, that women really need to realize that they will be relentless in their actions. And then we need to realize that the united front between the mother and the father, that he must be there, but he must be there like he's supposed to be there. The soldier that enforces her law that's just now freshly laid down. That's what it's really about. And what's happening is they're standing there on the outside, you know, trying to get the child and the mother to agree with their fraudulent bonds, which is human trafficking, that they initiate from the door, ab initio. That's what they're doing. And once sisters are clear about that, they can do what this sister just did and say, no, thank you. No, we're not doing it. And then as far as, like, they probe and some of the things, it's like, well, like you said, that's my religion, period. End of story, nothing else needs to be said. However, if they say, well, you got to name the child, no, my religion, we don't name the child until later. But you can't say that. And because it backs them off from ever asking you that question again. But my thing is that I see this amazing thing that I trust we'll all be able to see from the sharing of this experience, is that even if you don't appear to agree, right, they still make that bond. That's crazy. And now, as far as the state is concerned, they're also, and correct me if I'm wrong here, they're also trying to get, like, for instance, Sam and you said, oh, no, we already have our record. You didn't even really have to show them the record, but still, nonetheless.
No.
Because they're not going to think it's important or relevant. But my question is, gosh, I just lost my train of thought on this, but this is an important question because although this is what we need to see, although they didn't make that certificate or whatever, they didn't involve in it, the important
they're
thing
not
is
going
to
to
see
acknowledge
people.
it.
They're not going to acknowledge what you bring.
They're not going to acknowledge it. But let me just say this real quick because I don't want nobody to be confused. You are not looking for them to acknowledge it. We're not looking for anybody to acknowledge anything. But what they look at, the reason I say they don't acknowledge it is because for them it's not a revenue generator. It's not an instrument that is going to generate revenue for them, just as if you brought them, if you were born in China and you were a Chinese national, you brought them your birth certificate, they're not going to acknowledge it because it's not a revenue generator for them. That's what I mean by they're not going to acknowledge it, so be clear.
Now you just made me remember what I was going to say. All right. So what this means then is that by doing so or whatever, or part of their process is, and we're talking jurisdiction now issues, is that they then, by having their little certificate that says that a child was born, that they get ready to exchange on the market for finance, which is what a certificate is. So we would have a record, not a certificate, a record of birth, not a certificate of birth. Never use the word certificate because it means exchange. So what this would do then is give them what? Numbers. It says that a child was born, so then, it gives their state, their respective state, oh, man.
Well, and that's what that employee said. That, we have to notify the state of a birth. Yes. Let me just say this, for sisters, just for the future, what they're talking about is the Maternity Act. What you need to know is the Maternity Act was repealed. It is no longer in existence. It was repealed. So, no, when they say, we need to report to the state that a child was born, you need to be able to tell them, you're engaging in human trafficking. I don't want any part of that. Yes. There's no reason for you What law is that? You don't have to be belligerent. I mean, now, sisters, you the one got to know this because they're coming to you. I want just for the sons to know this, but they're not going to be looking at the sons. I have seen 20 sons get physically supported from the building because they know they know that's her egg. She's the only one that can stand up for it or give it away. And they're looking for a way for her to give the appearance of giving it away. And they will remove his son so that they can work on her. That's why when they walked to their room and they saw a sieve, they stopped, and it was like a scene from the Alien where the alien walked into the room and saw Sigourney Weaver with the blaster flare and backed up.
Yes, indeed. Oh, that's powerful. Now that's her. And then at the same time, if the son isn't there to give her the support, they know that will also weaken her. See, they play on the natural occurrences. We just need to be on top of it. One last thing too. This is also why, by nature's law, by national law and international, because if it's national, it's automatically international. Just for the Moors to know that if they're claiming they're nationals, then everything that deals with them is international. And it doesn't mean that you have to be 1,000, 3,000 miles away for it to be. But this is why, as a maximum of law, as nature's law, as international law, the condition. This is a great explanation that to share and express for people to get the condition of the child. And this is in the rights of indigenous people as well, is based upon what? The condition of the mother. That's why we tell these things, look, if we have sons, they say, oh, I want to get a nationality card for my child. I'm like, well, the mother has to sign. Oh, well, no, she's not going to sign it. Well, then your efforts are all messed up and botched up anyway, because if she doesn't agree that her child is a natural flesh and blood being, right, and a lineal descendant, to this land estate, then she's going to mess up anything you do, because it's not about what you do. I'm telling you, it's about her, So this shows condition of the mother. Sisters, listen, condition of the mother determines the condition of the child, which is the other reason why we're saying you need to be in uniform with the family, and you need to do this. You need to do this, not anyone else, because as said, Anna E., that is your baby. And they know it.
Yeah.
That's your It's
Now, sister, thank you so much. Boy, this is great information, but I want to bring in our second guest, Sister Christine Bey, who's also from Ascend's daughter-in-law. Sister Christine, are you there?
Islam. I think her baby's a year old now. Islam.
Yes.
Islam?
Yes.
Islam.
Can you hear me, Christine? I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Islam. I am Justice's mother.
Yeah.
He will definitely be a year old next month. He's 11 moon cycles old. He's definitely walking.
It went by so fast. I just want to let our listening audience know this is a daughter-in-law of Ascend as well. She brought forth or laid down the law about a year ago. Only she gave birth through the home birth, right?
Yes.
Home birth. So I wanted also for her, if you, I know, I think your time might be a little bit pressed, but whatever you can share in the time frame that you have, we would be most appreciative. Because the this is great that they're able to get two perspectives in one broadcast. This is great. We don't have to burn this to CD and name it something appropriate and just hand it out to the sisters so that they can know. Because they got to know this. So I'm going to yield the floor to you, and before I do that, I just want to tell Sister Shantae, peace and love to you, sister, and thank you so much for sharing. And if you choose, please stay on the line. I'm going to leave your line open because you guys know each other. We all know each other now, but you guys know each other. So, I yield the floor.
That's fine.
Okay, so where do I start? Okay, so prior to being pregnant with Justice, I got pregnant twice, and I miscarried both of them. So when I found out I was pregnant with Justice, I was super excited, ecstatic, or whatever. I didn't want to share the news yet because I was too afraid that something might happen again. So I waited a while to share the news with family. When I felt it was a right time to share the news with the family, everyone was happy. I loved it. Everyone was, just excited because they knew how much we were trying to have a baby and everything. So about 4 months in, I had to go to the hospital and get a procedure done, which was a cerclage, because my previous loss was due to an incompetent cervix, which is as the baby got bigger, my cervix was already starting to dilate. And because of that, they had to put a stitch around my cervix. It's about the size of a shoestring. They tied it, and then I was literally out the same day. I wasn't on bed rest or anything like that. Months passing by, and I'm doing research on YouTube, trying to prepare myself mentally for this experience I'm about to endure. And I stumbled across this video on YouTube about a lotus birth. I'm like, So I click it, and I see a woman. She's birthing in a pool, her husband by her side. She has the baby, then the placenta comes out, and they start seasoning the placenta, and I'm like, wow, what are they doing? Like, what's the reason behind this? So I start paying attention to what they're doing. She's explaining about the sea salt, the rosemary, the lavender oil, the reasons behind it, and then she starts explaining why she went the lotus birth route and stuff like that. After I saw that video, I started Googling and doing my own research because I was really fascinated about it. So fascinated, I literally sent it to Justice's dad, and he was at work at the time, and I was like, when you get home, I want to share this with you. I'll talk to you more in depth, but this is what it's going to be about. When he got home, I showed him the research. They said about saving the placenta, and the reason why you don't want to cut the umbilical cord, and why you want to save it and preserve it and stuff like that. So I let him know how I felt about it, and he was for it. He's like, if you want to do it, then we're doing it. This is about you. This is an experience that you're gonna go through. You're feeling everything. I'll just be there to support you. So if this is what you want to do, then that's what we're gonna do. So I looked at him and I told him, well,
I said a good son. I just said a good son. Go ahead.
Yes. So I told him, yes, this is what I want to do. So we just started planning ahead. Like, as soon as I found out, we went to my OBGYN. We brought this information to him, and he told us, he was like, okay, well, what is lotus birth? And I told him we preserve the placenta, and we don't want to cut it. they make it seem like it's a tradition in the hospital for the father to cut the umbilical cord, knowing that they use that umbilical cord for stem cell research and a bunch of other things, and they make millions of dollars off of it. So
yes, they do. Yes, they do. And I can vouch for that, because when I worked in the hospital, they would get the placenta they would take the placenta and they would preserve it like you're saying, or they would get it fresh. At hospitals, they got people having babies all the time. And if you had an open wound, and in this case, if somebody was having open heart surgery, they would take that placenta and they would stuff it in the wound. And because it's so powerfully packed with nutrients that it speeds up like healing, like warp speed of the head. So they take that. Now, what's crazy is they take that they take that placenta, but you don't get any credit. Well, as soon as they put it into this patient, he gets a charge, and it's not a little charge either. So I thought that was really interesting.
Wow,
so,
that's interesting. I just want to say this at this juncture, where she said they're making a ceremonial type thing for the father to be there to cut the cord. So now they're involving him, and their involvement as well of them. They're making a ceremony like, yep, Dad's involved too. Yeah. All right. It's continue.
They told me, I was telling him about preserving the placenta and how I wanted to go about it. He was like, oh, well, if you don't cut the placenta, won't the baby bleed out? And I was just like, no. What will happen is all the blood that's pumping from the placenta will go into the baby, and he'll get all the extra nutrients and the blood that he needs to, stay healthy and all that. He was like, okay, well, do you mind if I look this information up? He looked it up right there. He was very, very intrigued, and he was like, you just taught an old dog a new trick. Because he said he was taught while he was in school about if you leave the placenta attached, that the baby will bleed out and pass or whatever. So I was like, you were misinformed. So, he didn't take no, as a disrespect or anything. He just appreciated that he was taught something new. So he said that, okay, well, with this information that I've been given today, I'm going to run it past my, I guess his head people and see what they think about it. And if they are unable to accommodate me, then we'll just work from there. So, I was like, okay, that's fine. So my next appointment, he told me that he wasn't able to do it, but with whatever decision I did, supported me 100%. Now he was a great OBGYN, like very understanding. He didn't put his opinion or his feelings into it. He just literally had an open mind and trusted that, me and Justice's father had Justice, at our best interest at hand. So we literally left there, and a couple months later, I'm at 38 weeks now. 38 weeks I'm in for my checkup, and they're like, now we're noticing that you have low fluids. So I'm like, oh man, here comes the BS that they're trying to get me to go into the hospital and stuff. So I'm like, okay, what exactly is it? Oh, we just noticed your fluids are low, and we might have to keep you in for a couple of days just to keep an eye on there, and you might actually have to give birth here, because they knew that I was going to have a home birth. So I was like, okay. As soon as they leave out the room, I start bawling my eyes out. I'm looking at Cam, and I'm like, babe, I don't want to have my baby in this hospital. It's a great hospital, but I already know, the reasons behind it and all that. I'm like, my plan is home birth. I'm just like all upset. So I called my midwife, I forgot to mention her. I had found her on Google, and she also has a son that doesn't have a birth certificate or social. And I was like, I thought I hit the jackpot. I'm like, yes, finally I found somebody that that I understand and won't have their opinion and stuff like that. She just was like, okay, well, we'll work on on things that we need to do. So she said, once I get my cerclage removed, I'm hers 100%. But until the OBGYN was under me, then she couldn't really do anything but still check on the baby here and there. So once I came in for my 38th week checkup, that's when I was admitted to the hospital. My father-in-law was there, and my cousin was Cam was there. So I was they were with me throughout the whole stay in the hospital. I was super comfortable. I didn't feel alone or anything. They made sure I was fine. They kept checking my fluids. I guess I was dehydrated. So they were like, oh, your fluids came back up and everything is fine, so we're just going to release you. So before I was released, my doctor, Dr. Kessler, he came in and was like, okay, so I think it's best if we just cut the stitch now, and so you can be under your midwife 100%, just because you're so close to your 40 weeks. So I was like, okay, that's fine. He literally cut it right there, and now I'm just like, okay, justice could come at any day, because I already knew my cervix wasn't gonna keep up with him too much longer. So literally a week later, I'm outside, and we're having a conversation with our neighbor. 2:30 in the morning is a full moon, and they say the old wives' tale. You could stand under the moon, and you're literally going to birth.
Oh, and so, not an old wives' tale. It's the moon pulling the waters, because when those waters in that womb start to swell, then it bursts out. So it is really true that.
Oh well, listen, they were swelling all right.
It was actually that's the law of nature, because when the moon is full, if you ever have occasion to be near ocean water, when the moon is full, the waters are very different.
Yeah.
Very different.
So we stood underneath the moon till like 2:30 in the morning, and we laid down for the night. Literally 2 hours later, I go to the bathroom. Like, I'm soaking wet. What's wrong? Am I hot? I don't understand. I look down. My boxers are wet. So I'm like, okay. I had to Google what water breaking looks like, because, I've not experienced this. My first time being pregnant this long. So they said it showed that that's what your water looks like when it's broke. So I went to the back room, and I was like, babe, please don't panic, but my water broke. He literally was like, okay, babe, come on. All right, I was like, the midwife told me just to lay down and relax while, because your body's about to do something, drastic, and she's like, you want to rest as much as possible. So 5:11, I laid down, contractions, let me go do my makeup. I tried to do my makeup. Those contractions were like, nope, not today.
Wait a minute. When you mean your makeup, let me just make sure I'm clear. What makeup?
I had to make I had to make sure I was ready for these pictures.
Nature got you.
So I tried to do my makeup. The contractions were like, no. All I was worrying about was making sure my teeth were brushed, my tongue was brushed, so that when I was in Cam's face, he didn't smell nothing. So then I'm, contracting and everything. He called the midwife. The midwife was at another birth, and I didn't know that until after I gave birth, but I was told she was on her way. So I'm literally, just trying to hum the contractions out and whatever. And I hear my father-in-law, he's got the water boiling on the stove. I know it sounds scary, but that hot water killed the contractions by like 50%. And
wow.
I finally made it down the steps into the water. I'm like, listen, right about now, I don't care what's shown. I just need this baby to come out. So it's literally Justice's dad is my father-in-law and our cousin Qasim. Qasim's recording. His dad is dumping the water in the pool, and Cam is, my support system. So literally, I was in labor for 45 minutes. I pushed that long, but all I know is when Cam told me that the baby was here, I turned around and I asked where, and he went right back up because I was too busy trying to be nosy about what was going on down there. So I knew my next push, it had to be the one. So I pushed, and Justice really came out, and I was like super happy, so ecstatic, no blood, nothing. Like everything was just fine. The midwife was just like, just keep him underwater for a little bit after he comes out, just so that he doesn't get shocked or anything, and then just bring him up and rub his back. We rubbed his back, and then we heard him cry, and we knew everything was fine there. After I gave birth, the placenta came out, and that's when my midwife finally came, and she got a bowl, got our birthing kit, and she was showing us how to properly season the placenta with the sea salt, the rosemary, the oils, and everything, how to just properly take care of it so that it doesn't start sinking and all that. Literally 3 days later, on my third day, the placenta fell off. And I was kind of nervous. I was like, I hope the placenta doesn't fall off while I'm holding him, and that's exactly what happened. I was like,
wait a minute, but when you say the placenta fell off, did it fall off the baby or did it fall off you?
No, there's nothing attached to me. It was just the baby came out, and then the placenta was attached to the baby.
All right.
Yes, right. Because once the baby was born, and then the placenta came out of you,
that's right.
It's still attached to the child. Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's that child. So it's attached
because
the child.
No, the umbilical cord was attached to the placenta, of course, and the umbilical cord was still attached to the child. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
So it fell off, it dried up, and we wrapped it up and we put it in the freezer, and still to this day it's sitting in the freezer until his born date, and then we will probably plant it in a tree, because they say if you turn the placenta on its I want to say on its back, but if you turn it upside down, it looks like the tree of life.
Oh.
And we made sure we recorded it. We took plenty of pictures.
Yeah,
and
it has like veins in it, like veins running through it. Yes, but I want to say this. I know someone. I was going to get back at them. They had all of their children away, and I'm not sure whether they froze it or they buried it and was able to bring it back up whenever necessary, because what's in that placenta can cure anything that's wrong with the child later. I don't want to speak on it for certain until I ask them about it, but that was one of the things you want to have so that you can access it if you needed to, from what they were telling me.
When it fell off, he had the most natural belly button I ever seen in my life. Like it wasn't like no type of cut or anything like that. It wasn't irritated or anything. It was just like natural.
Right.
Of course he was not vaccinated. Of course, with the circumcision, at first we were like, okay, we'll get him circumcised, whatever. But my midwife was like, well, if you're having everything natural, if you're having a natural birth, if you're having him at home and stuff, why would you want to put him under that type of pain? Your child is born with everything it needs. So we definitely agreed with her. We were like, okay, so we won't circumcise him. And now he's just, everything he's doing is so advanced. We see a lot of, in our heads we compare, but we're not vocal until we get home. And it's just like, wow, justice is so advanced compared to, the children that are vaccinated and children that are born at hospitals and stuff.
Yeah.
Like he started walking. Yeah.
Oh, when did he start walking? Like 8 months or something?
At 9 months.
9 months. Yeah. Yep. He's a beauty. You can see the spirit in him, and that's why he's a happy baby. See, that's it. He really is.
Well, and just to interject, they pushed the circumcision on mothers for 2 reasons. Number one, it's traumatic, so it's going to cause further trauma. And that's number one, because, see, they're always about damaging the psyche because they need future revenue generators. That's number one. Number two, they say, they need to be circumcised, because if they don't, they can get infection. Now, the reason they say that is because most boys you have to teach boys how to the proper hygiene if they're not circumcised. You can't just let them run wild. You have to teach them. And so what was happening was, a lot of the sons, they were not learning that. For whatever reason, it could have been an issue where they were taken from their mother and she didn't get a chance to teach them. So, these strangers that told them, why would they teach them? They don't have a vested interest. So, but that's the reason. But it's that circumcision, when you really think about it, it's not natural at all.
Right.
Not natural.
Plus, that protects, if anything, that actually protects it. And the only issue, like you said, is keeping it clean. Right.
That's correct. And also, when boys are circumcised, they become, because they don't have that covering, that area, it becomes desensitized because it's always exposed. The reason for that skin is to protect it so that it doesn't become overstimulated. Because over time, that stimulation, it's going to die from overstimulation. So the nerve endings are going to die. That's why you got, a lot of times, well, not, I won't say a lot of times, there's a chance that guys can become, that if that hooks into, like, leading them into this whole industry they have set aside for guys because of this overstimulation. And it doesn't benefit the family at all, and it doesn't benefit the son either. Because if you're constantly distracted by this circumcised penis, you can't. Now you have to discipline yourself to move away from it, so that you can broaden your studies. So it becomes a challenge. It becomes a challenge to an energy that just wants to go out and do stuff. It becomes a challenge, a big challenge. So the whole circumcision, that whole circumcision process, it was designed to be another hindrance on the son. But they sell it as, it's a rite of passage. No, it's not. it's a sign that he's a man.
Right.
It doesn't do any of that. It actually takes away. So let's see. My goodness, it is 2:39. I think we did really good. We got 2 amazing accounts from 2 strong sisters. Because you got to be a strong sister today to do what both of you did, whether it's the hospital room or the home birthing. You have to be very strong. And one of the things that I have noticed is that a lot of the sisters today, they for whatever reason, they're not as strong as they need to be, and that's why these municipal employees are constantly taking advantage of them. And if you're not strong, please, you need to have strong people around you, mothers. You need to have strong mothers around you, and of course, a strong soldier, because they're going to intimidate you. They're going to, from the door. The minute you're pregnant, the intimidation begins. And so you have to be strong, and you have to have a strong support team around you all the time. And that doesn't end after you have the baby.
Right.
The first 7 years are the most critical, because it's in the first 7 years that you're going to be, teaching the child about their culture and their custom and their nationality. And
that's 7 is the age of reasoning. So you teach them to reason well.
So that's right. So after 7, that's why it used to be that there was only kindergarten. Now they got this preschool, and preschool used to be, kindergarten was at age 5, preschool was at 4,
3.
Now preschool is at 3.
3.
Because the sooner they can get their hands on these children, the sooner they can start mentally conditioning them with the wrong information.
Yep.
So it doesn't end after birth. It is, in fact, another beginning. So we have to have plans in place for that as well. And it's imperative that you have a strong family, support, because you're going to need it. Especially today. When I was having children, you could do it on your own. If you're a strong sister, you're just not going to take no mess. But it's so much easier when you have other people to assist you. It's so much better, and that's what we need to be working on. We need to be more of a team, we need to be more of a team. We're one family, so it doesn't matter who you are. If you look like me, we're family. And so we need to support each other, because they are trying to continue. Well, they're trying to prevent the family from uniting, which is what this whole thing is about.
Yep.
So what I want to try to do, and I don't know how much time everybody has, but we got like 2 people with hands up. We don't have too much time to take questions, and I'm not sure what the scene time frame is like, but I want to at least take these 2 callers, because they both have their hands up. Right? Well, sometimes, yes.
Okay, so they mean
yes, they are.
So we'll do what we can do. All right.
Yes. So, let's see. We're going to take our first caller 919-793. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation and Northwest Maximum.
This love. This is FT. As you stated, Northwest Maximum. I appreciate the show today.
All right.
Can you hear me just fine? Can you hear me just fine?
Oh, yes, I can hear you now, yes.
Okay, great. I said I'm grateful to be, that individual in this
particular area. I had a grandchild born unto me December 25th last year. And through my own experiences with my last son, who is 2.5 now, but I went through the whole process, already acknowledging who I was. So from the gate, all rights reserved, had the affidavit of birth prepared. And so by the time she gained with child, she didn't look to her mother for assistance. She looked to me. So when she, was ready to give birth to her son, she did do it in a hospital, and I was there as counsel. I did not allow for footprints to be taken. I did not allow for the placenta to be taken because I told her to put her birthing plan together. Of course, she didn't. So I'm more or less demanded these things on the spot. Told my son he is not to leave the room. You stay there with the baby, because what my experience was successful, the other 2 children I had before him, they wouldn't even allow my husband in the room. So this time around, I had my girlfriend come in, and she was there, and they tried to get her out the room once he came out, and they made all kinds of conversation, and she would let them say their piece, and her only statement was, my job is to stay with the baby, and she did just that. She allowed nothing to be put in him. They took no blood from my seed. We got all his parts. No, he was not circumcised. No, they didn't get his appellation. They tried the entire time we was there. So when my son's consort was ready to give birth to her son, she looked to me, and I was there, and they actually did put prints on a piece of paper and had brought it in for her to sign. And I caught wind of it. I was like, whoa, what's that? She was like, oh, it's just the prints, get mom to sign off. I said, oh, no. Who took prints from him? That's stealing. I said, those prints aren't leaving this room. She was shook. She didn't leave the room with those prints. She didn't leave the room. She had to call people to come into the room. They wound up ripping it up and throwing it in the garbage can. Again, didn't give the appellation. They did take her placenta, but when she came in and I was like, where's the placenta at? They was like, oh, no one said that she was keeping her placenta. I said, that's a lie. Because the one technician/nurse that was working on a little machine, she was right there when this was stated.
All right, but see, they don't start talking means nothing. You have to document that. Exactly. You have to come in with documentation.
Exactly.
So they can make
instructions. But they went and got it. Supposedly that was hers, but it was so small. I was like, what is this? She was like, oh, it's just compressed because we got it in a sealed bag. And I was like, no, this is not all of her placenta. I said, that's all right. Y'all got that. But, yeah, I'm just so grateful to hear these young women, coming about. Now I got a little – and I can look at her eyes and tell she's terrified. She's terrified about what she's going through right now, and she's terrified about not being able to do the appropriate things because her mom, she's a zombie. She want to come to me, but she don't know how. I'm open to it, but got to be what it is.
All right. But all right. I think that's a journey that she's going to have to go through, because it's her baby. So it doesn't matter what her mother is or is not. It's her journey. But, sister, I got 2 more callers that I want to get to, and I want to be able to answer any questions that any other sisters might have. Is this Sister Energy?
Yes, it is.
Oh, all right. Good to hear from you. I hadn't heard from you in a while.
Yeah, just going through, making things happen on my successful Facebook. Okay.
All right.
So,
all righty. It's good to hear from you.
It sure is.
All right.
It's long.
All right. Peace and love.
Peace and love.
All right, caller 267-353. You are live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest Alexa.
Excuse me, Islam family. This is RVBey.
It's Granddaddy. All right.
Yes. Northwest Alexa. I know I'm going to just make it quick. I'm thankful for you mothers, and I'm thankful for the daughters. I wanted to let them know that I'm very proud of them, and let them know also, from the 101 Keys, we see the prophet standing there with his foot on the rock, holding the mother and holding these daughters. And I want the daughters to know, and the sister that just called before, I want to thank them because they just made the prophet's arms a little lighter because they waking up and he don't have to hold them, And so, they doing the prophet's job and doing his work, So, not just the prophet's work, but they doing the work. They putting in the work for the nation and rebuilding the nation, So just give honor, thanks, and praise, and also give honor, thanks, and praise to our prophet, for bringing us this here knowledge of our nationality and our birthright so that, we taking these stands today over 100 years later, we taking these stands and on rebuilding this nation. So I just want to cut it short. I know it's some others. I got a lot to say. And thank you,
But you know what? We got to say something to you. And what we got to say, wait a minute, hold on. I dropped my earphone. What we got to say to you is that you also doing the work, brother. You're also, this is your family. Both of these sisters that spoke today are based on are your family. You're the granddaddy of all the two babies spoken of today, and you are doing the work as well. Because we've been, associated for a minute, and you've been spreading the word to all of your family. So, gotta give you some props. All right.
Yes, and my wife.
And your wife, but of course, because if she didn't want it wouldn't happen. That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
So we got a lot to say because, listen, I'm just waiting to fall at the footsteps of you mothers. As a man, I just want to be at the footsteps of you mothers, and do what we got to do, because we born duds. So, look, as soldiers, just give it up. Put yourself out there and give it up. And never was a time when we were not, so we be all right. All right. Love. I got a lot to say, but I'm
all right.
The floor
Give love to the mother.
Yes.
All righty.
It's fun.
All right.
Yep.
All right. Caller 50701. You are live on the air. Please state your appellation at Northwest Maximum.
Greetings, sister. This is Tara L.
Islam.
Yay.
Islam.
All
now,
right.
I wanted to call in because I heard the sisters talking about their experience at the hospital, and I recently it had nothing to do with pregnancy, but I had a personal injury. And so I went to I gave them I just wrote my appellation on the intake forms, and appropriate persona, natural person, and I put white. And they took me in. They never asked me for any ID or anything. They rushed me in. I kind of went through quickly. And I was the only Asiatic in there. And so when they got me to the hospital, I'm sorry?
No, I'm just saying, they got you in and out real quick. They knew you wasn't buying them little bed.
So when I was laying on the bed, and a guy came over to me, and before they took me in, a lady tried to get me to pee in a cup. I was like, what do you need that for? And she was like, because we need to check to see if you're pregnant. I was like, well, that's not an issue. I'm definitely not pregnant. And she was like, well, then, we just need to make sure with any medication you're not going to have a reaction. I was like, So they took me back. And then a guy came over. They never checked my ID or anything, tried to get me to pee in the cup. And I was like, well, I'm not comfortable with that. I told a lady first. And she was like, well, just tell the guy. So he kept trying to force me to bringing me water and stuff. And I told him, look, I'm not going to do that for you guys because, number one, I'm not pregnant. And number two, you're trying to give me Motrin. I took Motrin growing up as a, teenager for cramps. I'm not going to have any allergic reaction to that if I decided to take it. So he got extremely upset. He became hostile because they could not get my sample of urine, which they wanted to run some tests on, which I knew is what they wanted to do, and I wasn't going to allow them to have any substance from my body. But, and after that, they started wanting to reevaluate me, and then on my discharge papers, they tried to say that I rejected medication. When I got the doctor's report, patient rejected medication. And I didn't reject medication. He rejected giving me any Motrin because I refused to pee in the cup. But they discharged me, and she was like, "Oh, but do you want that medication now? I heard earlier that you were refusing medication." So they lied.
Yep, because them medications
Well,
was whatever something they wanted to do.
That's what they do. We shouldn't be surprised. That's what they do.
Yeah, because they have a different motive. Yeah,
they have an agenda.
Yes, and they're saying you rejected medication because they wanted to really give you all these tests that you actually rejected, but to them, that's medication.
Exactly. And then when I was checking out, they put my name in that ins legis. And from the gate, like I said, when I filled out that paper, I let them know I wasn't an ins legis. So that's another time they got hostile. I said I crossed it out and I wrote my appellation the appropriate way and I put my title back on. And he was like, "What's that?" I was like, "Well, that's an ins legis that you just tried to put on me." I said, "That's not me." He was like, "You're saying that?" I said, "Yeah, that's not me." I said, my name is Mantis. And so they went back in the system. I sat there and I made them correct all that stuff and take it out because they're like, "Oh, our system automatically capitalizes everything." But I bet you everything I had after that didn't have that in Vegas on there. In my title,
well, how did they even get that if you didn't give it to them?
That's what I was asking too. So they ran some type of system. See, because the only reason they had my IDs when I was checking out, I said, "You can't put my name like that. It's just like it is on my nationality card because she scanned that in." But prior to that, they didn't have anything because I didn't give them anything other than what I wrote on the paper. So they ran my name through some system.
No, they wouldn't have run your name because how would they even have? You mean the nom de year, right?
Yeah, because they had. I mean, I could read very quickly.
What would they have had? It had to have been probably maybe it could have been some face recognition program because they didn't have.
Well,
the nom de year,
no.
right?
It could have been. Let me ask you this. I'll tell you what it could have been. When people keep their the nom de guerre and then add just the title on the end, a lot of times they'll run that and don't run the ill or the bay on it. And there's nothing wrong with that but I'm just saying that's one of the other ways. Was that the situation with you?
I'm assuming so because it had some information that wasn't attached to me anymore on there.
That's what they did. They ran it. If it was Charlene Jackson Ill or Charlene Jackson Bay, they ran Charlene Jackson. They matched it with the mailing location or whatever like that. That's what they did. They do that also on hindering of so-called traffic stops. And it's not that you didn't want that. Oh, absolutely. That's the first thing they do. But it's not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just that, as you said, no, I gave you who I am because you have a right to correct, change, or whatever. And you gave them that card or whatever ID you use, and you are who you say you are, not who they say. But that's how they did it, and they do that a lot.
Yeah.
And they want to keep you there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I didn't think of that, but you're right. That's exactly what they do because that's what they did to me, boycotting a traffic issue. And so when they sent the demand, when they gave me the ticket, I realized, well, that's not even the appellation I gave you. So I sent it back to them. Told them, this is void for defect. I'm returning you back your property. That was that.
I heard that.
Yep. Well, she kind of did that, too, in her own way by correcting it on the spot before she left.
Yeah. Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. That's the same principle. Same exact principle.
I was really shocked that they were trying to force that medication on me.
Yeah. Yeah, because they were going to, and the other thing they would do is say, oh, well, we ran your urine test, and it shows, might say it shows you have something in your body that's not good, all kinds of whatever, or even to say, oh, we found drugs in your body or whatever, and we need to, or we found whatever in there, and something is high, you got high levels of this, low levels of that, we need to give you blah, 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 blah. That's how they do it.
Yeah, that is. I have a friend. They was trying to tell him he had high blood pressure and wanted to put him on blood pressure medicine immediately. He said, no, I don't. And I don't have high blood pressure. So he said, when I come back for my next checkup, it'll be back where it needs to be. So sure enough, when he came back for his next appointment, his blood pressure was exactly where it needed to be. And they wanted to know, well, how'd you do that? He never told them because, see, they're always trying to put on people their norm, not our norm, their norm.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, he just happened to know this intuitively, so it kind of affected him. But we all need to know this intuitively.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we all need to know this intuitively. So, let's see if we have. Oh, we got another caller. Sister, thank you so much for that information. That was great.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
All righty, peace and love. All right, so now we have caller 973-280, and I believe that is Sister Carol. Yvonne? Yvonne, caller 973-280.
I gotta laugh because my finger hit the mute button, but Islam. Anna L. and Sister Roz Mariah. I must say it was an excellent show, and listening to those two young mothers, it just filled my heart with joy. I'm a grandmother, so I'm past the childbearing, and then the last call of it, I hadn't experienced something like that. But anyway, I have to give honors to you and Roz because all this information and everything that you're putting out here, that's the product. That's what when the two young sisters called in the two young mothers, that's what's happening, and everything is coming to pass. And as far as the hospital trying to get you to sign, it's all about the fiat because they're going broke too. Even the modern Europeans aren't going into the hospitals the way they used to. So that's why they want your autograph. They want you to sign off on everything because it's generating finance for them. So I just want to call and tell you that I thank you. We do appreciate you, and it just lifts my spirits knowing that everything that's being done, it is. Our family is listening, and they're waking up.
Yes. Yes, man. That's for sure. It's happening. That's for sure. And it's happening, and that's why the prophet said, listen, it's all going to be in y'all's hands. And it is. And so this is still, and when it is, we still and must have this knowledge. Or otherwise, we'll allow someone to walk us right back into something else. To the mental slavery again. So, yeah, it is good. A good thing.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to share this, which I put it in writing for my daughter and son, that I do not want to go into those medical institutions, those corporations, no matter what. I said, if I pass on, then so be it. I have a couple of holistic doctors, and when I said if they can't help, then I said that's it. But I eat right, and living right, thinking right. So it was hard for them to kind of accept it, but I think it's been a couple of years now, and they finally got the hang of it. They see where I'm going with this. I said those places, they murder us. They're no good for us.
This is so true. We all have experienced that, and as you get older, and I know you have as well recently. And as Anna E. said, as soon as they get you in there, it's just really see how much finance you have, and if you have an elder or whatever, they'll check and see what they have, and keep you in there long enough to drain all of that. This is why, we just got to get back to, the mindset of our foremothers and forefathers, ancient foremothers and forefathers, and to the natural living, and we can have natural pathings as well,
Right. That's right.
Islam. It's good to hear from you, Sister Carol.
Likewise. I missed the first half an hour, and I'm like, oh, goodness, Sister standing on the lawn. I ran to the phone, and I caught the conversation of the young mothers, and I was so happy to hear it. The story really touched me. And I said, oh, I'm so glad they're standing on this square, and they know who they are. Their children are going to know who they are. And we will take our rightful place.
Exactly. Because imagine what these mothers would pass on to their children, sons and daughters. Then this is where it's at. You know what I mean? This is how it's done. So, yeah, we give honors to them as well.
Yes, definitely.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so we got a couple more callers. Thank you so much, Sister Carol. Peace and love to you.
You're welcome. Peace.
All righty. All right, so we got another caller, and then we're going to have to end. Caller 619-303. 619-303. You're live on the air. Please state your appellation and Northwest Maxim.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
All right. I'm Felicia, and this is something close to my heart. I just needed to call and let you know that there's a doctor. She's female. Her name is Dr. Jewel Pookrum. I don't know if you've heard of her.
Yes.
She speaks about this a lot.
Yes, I'm very familiar with Jewel. Very familiar with Jewel.
They tried to suppress her information, but thank you for bringing it up. Go ahead. Bring it back to life.
She tells the mothers about our bodies and what she's gone through. And they can go on YouTube and look up her name. It's spelled, the last name is spelled Pookrum.
R-U-M?
Yes.
We didn't hear the last part.
Pardon?
No, we didn't hear the last part. You said Pookrum, as in mother.
Yes. That's
right.
Pookrum. And she speaks about this, our body and everything, and how to take better care of ourselves. Also, I'm just throwing in some suggestions. I took a nutrition class, and I pass that information on to others to let them know how important our diet is for our health, so that the mothers don't have any complications before they get pregnant.
That's correct, because actually everything's supposed to start before you get pregnant, and it starts with your diet. So that's imperative.
And I noticed when the mothers were talking,
if the diet of the mother is correct, you will never need the so-called prenatal pills, which you don't know what's in them either.
Yes, and we really need to talk to the mothers because we have mothers now that they're trying to tell them to take prenatal pills, and the mother's never been pregnant before, so we have to up this education. Really.
Well, that's bad. They have never even been pregnant. They got them taking them ahead of time. Now, that goes along with what you just said, Annie. You don't know what's in those pills.
That's right.
You don't know what's in them. Yeah, we do. We need to have classes for them. Well, we should get in touch with you. I think, Annie, you have her phone number there, and mark it down. And maybe we can put something together, because we have to reach the mothers. It's all really on them. And we've got to admit, too, and sisters, I don't know if you have any comment on how the young girls today, and it's not just today, because I remember, 15 years ago, or more than that, really more than that, the young girls didn't even know that when they breastfeed, the first thing that comes out is what they call colostrum, which is the antibiotics that you give your child naturally, and then after that, it's a clear liquid, and then after that comes the milk. So some of the young girls, without knowing that, they get upset and they think, oh my gosh, I can't breastfeed, simply because they don't know that comes first. Simple things like that. That's information that ought to be passed on to the young girls.
Absolutely. I'm speaking to some of them now to tell them how important it is before they have the baby, that they start educating themselves now. If they plan on being mothers. I said, well, you will.
Yeah, they will. Yeah.
And the stories was very beautiful. I was wondering about women choosing men to go to have babies.
To go what, with them to have the babies?
No, having a male doctor.
Oh. Well, I don't know. What's your thought on that? Because some people, I know that some people have said, well, it's more comfortable with a woman, because they have a better understanding. But then I had a doctor that was a woman that had no real bedside manner. So what is that? Would be what, a choice for them to make, or what would they gauge that on? What's your take on that?
Well, I chose to have a woman doctor because as girls, we just never went to men doctors. The girls are
I hear you.
The girls are apprehensive, and I understand that they couldn't talk people into going to doctors unless they had a nurse in the room because they just didn't feel comfortable with the men.
Well, I can agree with that. I can see that, and I think that we as women and young girls ought to really be dealing with it with our own gender. It's just like having a guy teach you about your menstruation period. Like how are they possibly going to tell you anything about that?
It just doesn't.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you're right. It just doesn't. You don't have a period. What can you tell me?
Well, Anna E says that all the time as well, and we agree as women that, yeah, you can't do that. You have not that experience. I wonder where that came from, though. What made them think that male doctors would administer to women on things that they do not experience and cannot experience? Are you there?
Yes, I think it's a natural phenomenon. I talked to people in the medical field, and they said that they're just apprehensive with the doctors if they're males with their bodies.
They do. All right.
Girls. I mean, they're young, and it's something innate, I guess.
It is innate. Yeah. Well, I guess that's more of a reason why we would say that women.
Bye, girl.
Oh, if somebody is, I mean, you might want to block someone out. There's a background noise. I think that's more of a reason then, sister, why we need to continue to say that the women need to come up to the plate, and get with this information and program, and that would give a whole lot. A lot more things that women can do and need to do, and, information services or whatever that needs to be handed down from the women to the daughters.
I like
because
that.
Because I think that what you're saying is when you did sort of an analysis, they said, well, I really wasn't that comfortable. So there's certain things that they're just simply not going to say, and so that doesn't give them the full counseling, let's say, that they might be looking for in the doctor that they might be using. You know what I mean? So they have to leave there with things unanswered, because they're not going to share them with them.
And they also have, like, classes, Lamaze, and there's another class that's not as broad that you take before you enter into parenthood. That gives you a lot of information. It gives you a lot of information.
So you're saying the free classes that you enter in before you even go into motherhood or get pregnant, that needs to take the place of the prenatal vitamin they give you.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay. I hear you. Yeah. This is an exciting topic.
Oh, it's the only topic. I was reading in one of the literatures or brochures that there's only one way to give birth, but 1,000 to kill.
Yeah. So now that needs to be exposed. Yeah.
That would be an interesting program to put together, I think a pre-Lamont class before you even get into that would be great. Now other women can help other women.
Yeah. Yes.
Doesn't necessarily have to be because you're going to have a baby. It could be just you're learning it to help other women.
Mhm. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, that's something we should be putting together.
Yeah, I'm going to look into that.
Yep. And keep her number if she doesn't mind, and we can, partner up with it or something. If that's all right with the sister on the line.
Well, you know it is.
Yeah.
It is.
I hear you. You're like, yeah.
For the others waking up.
All right.
Because
we
have to raise better sons.
What did you say? We have to make better sons and better daughters. That's right.
We have to raise better sons and daughters.
Mhm. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So we definitely will get back to you. Maybe we can put something else together for the Sister Standing on Law series here in regards to this, because this is, even when you get into nationality and birth rights, this is about the birth. And if the woman is not anywhere involved or alluding to being involved, then we're not talking about birth rights, because she's the one who gives the birth. So, yeah, we'll do that. We'll get in touch with you, and we'll see what we can come up with.
What is your appellation, sister?
Felicia.
Oh, all right.
Felicia
Right.
with an AH on the end, breath of life. AH is the breath of life that is given from mother only to the child. So, Felicia. Felicia, Felicia, breath of life.
You are so correct.
All right. Well, I have your number, and we will definitely get in touch with you. And that concludes our broadcast. So before we go, I just have to say so much to Christine Bey and Shantae Hill. Thank you so much. Thank you both so much for having the courage and the strength to do what you did. And thank you so much for the privilege of sharing it with all of us.
Yes. Yes. They may have, I don't know if they're still online. They both had to do something, but they can listen to the recording later and receive our thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So with that, we are going to conclude this broadcast, and we will see you on Tuesday for Principles of Nationality in Action. Peace and love to all the sisters out there, and know that you have the strength and courage to get this information and do what has to be done for the betterment of the family. Peace and love to all.
Islam.